Hello everyone and welcome to my public accountability meeting, my public online meeting here, and I will be chairing it today, and I'm Zoe Metcalfe, your Police Fire and Crime Commissioner for North Yorkshire and York. So this meeting is for North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service. So it's a beautiful sunny day, so I hope that you'll get an awful lot out of this meeting. There's an improved performance pack, which is absolutely fantastic. So let's dive straight into it.
So on this first section, this is a summary of the performance. So there has been 1,515 community safety activities that have been undertaken by our community safety officers and operational staff within that reporting period. Road safety activity has had the highest count of activity throughout Motorcycle Safety Week. As well with the prevention activity, 979 safe and well visits have been completed, 710 of these by operational staff and 269 by community safety officers. 231 safe and well visits were declined by the occupants. The number of safe and well visits that have passed their visit date, and I'll go into that later on in the pack, since November, we have a count of 72. 52 of these jobs have had no visit booked, but attempts have been made to get into those properties. Safe and well jobs that cannot be completed due to circumstances outside of our control, with the time frames that we allocate, which is 7 days for very high risk, 14 days for high risk and 28 days for medium, are being monitored. That can be anything with regards, some of the referrals we get, the occupants may be in hospital still, or we can access those premises for a reason. When we do this, 3 contact attempts are made to complete the visit. If the visit cannot be made, a formal response is sent to both the premise owner and the referring agency to make sure that it gives them the opportunity to rebook them in a suitable time. So we now have response on-call availability. They have updated this slide to actually show the operational demand as well. So as you look across, you can see the on-call availability. The darker line that runs through it, that shows the operational demand in those areas. I do need to emphasize that this is the demand within the station area, not necessarily directed solely to that on-call resource. So as you can see there is quite a spike around ACOM. That is for incidents that were in that area and may not have been responded to by ACOM on-call appliance. So it just shows that. As you can see, we've got a number of high performing availability. So if you look at Skipton, Hawes and other areas similar to that, some really good availability there, but then other areas where the availability can be improved. Speaking to district commanders at service delivery performance, drivers, fire appliance drivers and crew managers, watch managers, has had an impact in some areas on the availability. Just to know, last week, I think it was last Friday, myself and the Deputy Chief was at training centre for the pass out parade of 10 on-call firefighters, which will be going out to a number of these stations. So work is ongoing. We're doing lots of work with the workforce planning, which includes on-call, and we will be working with the on-call station manager to ensure that we've got effective recruitment and retention for on-call.
Sorry, we were so yeah, the 3 main targeted areas where we are focusing around our community risk profiling. However, that doesn't mean they are in purely isolation. We also do a lot of other work. Sorry, if you can move on to the next slide, please, Vicky, we'll discuss that in there. So on this slide, we talk about the main three key areas, moving left to right. On the right-hand side is the other key areas that are slightly outside that we still concentrate a lot of our work around, and that's calendar of campaigns. So that's based in where our local risk is and making sure that where we have local risk identified, we can undertake calendar of campaigns. The NFCC provide fantastic guidance and prevention education materials that we can then convert and make sure they're relevant to our localised risk. We also concentrate on a lot around our internal and external safeguarding within the prevention team, working closely with our safeguarding manager. We do work around seasonal activities, some of which is incorporated within water. The other one is wildfire, which is very prevalent at the moment. And yet we also we've started, we're a statutory partner now under the serious violence duty, incorporating how, well, I'm lucky enough to chair the serious violence duty for the North Yorkshire area. And within that, we're just defining our definition of serious violence. And within that, we will be incorporating violence against women and girls, which is what we've got a strategy against as well. So yeah, it's areas of expansion there. Some of the success stories that we'll go into, because we cover it around the 4 E's, around the road safety partnership through engagement, education, enforcement and engineering. So our main concentration is around the 2 bits, the engagement and the educations. And a couple of the really good success stories around that are one of our volunteer driven, excuse the pun, but driven activities that is the fire bike. So that's run on a volunteer basis, and that I wouldn't say it was an intervention, it's more of an engagement. It's been a fantastic engagement tool. What that's allowed us is it's managed to get us to speak to the biking community and actually try and, you know, then it's allowed us to get further referrals into things like partnership courses and our very own Biker Down. And we've seen a massive increase in Biker Down. And when we actually talk about the evaluations of that, some of it has come through the engagement conversations of the fire bike. It's data driven. Everything we do around it is data driven. So we know what day they're most likely to be an incident, which areas, what type of roads, and that's a fantastic sort of information that's provided through the road safety partnership. We then can allocate that and start having those conversations. Very hard to evaluate that, but like I say, it is, and I think it was there was a National Day of Action, and we. I think North Yorkshire Police have received some funding in the lead-in on motorcycle safety. The fire bike helped take part and participate. And when we're on the border of some of our bordering fire and rescue services, there was a real interest around the model and taking it on. And like I say, it's a real area where we're looking to try and see a reduction in the killed and seriously injured around motorcycle safety. So yeah, it's been a real success story. And like I said, the Biker Down, once again, it keeps going from strength to strength. That's the stage of the year as we're moving on, and not necessarily seasonal, but obviously there's a flood risk within North Yorkshire. How we do that and where we're trying to get to is within prevention is the public health approach, the 3-tier of primary, secondary and tertiary, and a lot of the primary is stopping things happening, and then such as early weather warnings. We did a lot of work when we last saw the potential for flood around farm fire. We do farm fire safety, so from the back of farm fire safety, it's more farm safety now. So it incorporates things like flood, etc. So when we saw the and then through our partnership working, so through some of the young farmers organisations and things like that, what we're able to do through that program is try and stop things happening. So previously we've had incidents where livestock's gone into water, and then subsequent incidents on the back of that. We've been able to get out that early education advice to move in the livestock to stop them happening, and we saw a considerable reduction in those sort of incidents. And the same around what we're looking at is driving through floodwater, etc. as well. So we wanted to work on that. And then as we drop into the I know they're slightly changing now, but the winter months, risk around the dangers of ice and entering going on to the ice and the risks of entering the water on the back of that. So we're working on lots of different areas around water safety. One of the big success stories is well, two of the success stories. One is we undertook some fire safety videos. They've been shared nationally as best practice, and the other one is the water flume. We're having some real success around the water flume, attending a lot of events, a lot of the shows, and what we've got there is we've got a link from that to the QR code that then directly links them to our prevention site around the water as well. So we're having a lot of success around that, and it's a real, once again, it's an engagement tool that brings everybody to it to be able to deliver those safety messages.
Can I ask you a question about rural businesses when you touched on farm safety and about the crop fires that we had last year, and maybe we'll get some really hot weather continuing through the summer. How are we working with those rural businesses, you know, to support them, to help us to help them, type of thing, Tom?
Yeah, so last year through the dry spell, like I said, through the links through the farm fire safety, I think I presented about the farm fire safety booklet previously, but we use the connections and the partnerships that we've built through that, and we got out some early information. Once again, it's that primary, it's trying to stop it happening, and for an example, that what the farms were doing, we were asking them to put sort of breaks around their the fields to stop that spread that we'd been seeing a lot of. We're also giving advice on cleanliness and maintenance, because we're seeing a lot of agricultural vehicles setting alight due to a buildup of dust and the heat, and then also things like the managing their own water supplies. Have been having water bowsers and things like that available. Yeah, so it's all about that premise, trying to stop it happening in the first place.
Thank you very much, Tom. Really appreciate that. So we're going to go on to the spotlight section. So this is our questions that have come into me directly or to the office from the public. So I'm going to choose 3 quick ones which are directed at the chief. So so the first one is about HMICFRS has outlined 35 recommendations within their publication on values and cultures. So can the Chief Fire Officer provide his thoughts on the report and the recommendations, and what's their plan to address those actions?
Certainly. My thoughts on the report are that it is valid. There has been challenge within the sector, understanding that many services had been deemed to be good. And then obviously there has been a subsequent report which has said that there is significant issues across the sector. Ultimately, from our position in North Yorkshire, and I've been clear throughout with our staff and with the public, is that change is needed. That isn't saying that it is everywhere and it's widespread, because we have excellent members of staff, we have excellent behaviours and excellent actions that they demonstrate. But I would be naive to think that there aren't pockets or instances where we can improve. And we know they're there, and that's what we're working upon to do.
This is a question from, and it was being raised by Hensall Parish Council. Now they're located in the Selby region, south of North Yorkshire County. So the question is, how are North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service replying to engagement and consultation requests on the installation of battery storage facilities? Is the Chief Fire Officer confident in the service's response plan to a major fire involving large battery storage infrastructure? Now, Jonathan, you and I have already discussed that, but I thought it was important to bring it into this arena.
No, that's great, and it is, because this is becoming a worldwide issue. It's not just one thing, something that's in Selby. So from that perspective, where we're required to, and we are a statutory consultee, then Tom's team will provide that response. Where of course we're not, then we are able to give advice, but there is a change between our statutory footing and that where we're just providing appropriate advice as a fire authority. Now, nationally, the National Fire Chiefs Council and the on the UK Fire site has released guidance for this on services. And Tom's team are embedded within there, and they are conducting the gap analysis around where we are currently and the interventions that we need to do moving forward. But this is a learning and development piece nationally. And we know that within these storage facilities, if they have appropriate extinguishing media as much as they can, then it can inhibit the fire. But we've also seen when the thermal runaway starts that there is nothing we can do necessarily to intervene in that space. So this becomes 2 points. One is a firefighter safety, because we need to make sure our firefighters are safe and responding, and that's what Tom's team is doing, and look at the prevention and protection and the equipment we can give staff. And then also in the public domain, around how we educate and how we inform members of the public of the risks that are presented to these, alongside the responsible person and the owners of those sites which are in, building those installations. So again, it's a developing area for all fire services. We are well placed through Tom and his team on the interventions that we've got, but we won't stand still, and we'll continue to make sure that our policies internally and our training mirrors that of the national perspective, and we'll also continue to respond appropriately to statutory consultees where we're asked.
And the last one, it's been recently raised by the Independent Audit Committee and others that there are significant issues with the training records and that many are in a bit of a poor state. So what are you going to do to mitigate against serious risks, and how has this been managed?
This is part of when I took up the role of Chief Fire Officer, when I told everybody that I would critically review the organisation, and this is just one of those critical reviews which I asked for. Now, through myself and the Section 151, our fellow statutory officer, we implemented a further remit of independent verification of the organisation in 10 key areas, and these are all aspects of those areas. So all of the action plans are being appropriately managed. We are aware of those issues, and again, this sits within Ben Ilsley's, the area manager responsible for operational training, in how we manage these risks. Ultimately, we have the services, we have the systems, we have the processes to improve them, and we're going to, and we are doing, and we've demonstrated that, and we're demonstrating it through to the HMI, those improvements that have been made. We are self-aware. We were self-aware because we asked for these reviews to be done, and we understand now that we are undertaking the appropriate measures to change them. Again, it's critical reviews, we're managing them, but again, it's a developing position for the organisation.
My question now is to the Chief, and it's the same I asked to the Chief Constable of the police as well, and it's, are you happy where we are at the moment with our improvement plan, Jonathan? And how are you assuring that the areas that have been signed off as complete are going to be embedded so that, the progress is maintained?
Am I happy? No, because I'd rather we didn't have an improvement plan. Unfortunately, we are where we are, and I can categorically assure you that I am monitoring and what we're doing. And the reason that I can categorically assure you is because, as I'm sure, and you'll see from the evidence that's presented today in the performance pack, in the teams, and how we are leading the service, gives us the assurance that we're moving forward. Now, will we achieve everything that we expect to in that time? We're working with the HMI to make sure we deliver those. There is always curveballs which come into these things, and inevitably, with the small resources that we've got, we have to reprioritise some things. But where we reprioritise, we're transparent about that. We're open with the HMI so that they can always see the progress, as will the public, in how we make that clear to them as well. So it's unfortunate we have these improvement plans, but we have made that progress. I'm confident that we will achieve the end state that we want to get to. And I'm confident that we've appropriately resourced with what we're available to make sure we deliver that change.
Okay, so will it be on track? Is it on track for?
It is on track for what we're wanting to do. Yes, yep. As we've demonstrated today. As I say, there are always things which pops up in there, but where it does, we're transparent about it. And if not, then we reprioritise. And again, linking with HMI so that everybody is aware on the impact and what we're trying to achieve.
I believe we have a couple of questions. So can we turn to them, please? So here we go. Gwen in York. Hello, Gwen. Good afternoon. Can I say if any area in York will be able to benefit from the free infrastructure as here? So that's the Safer Streets programme, Protect Your Home. Okay, so we very much focus, Gwen, on cross-border crime, those communities that have really struggled with cross-border crime. Next, hopefully, if we get some more Safer Street money, we'll certainly have a look in urban and rural areas, but it's got to be absolutely data driven. So, yeah, well, there will be a consideration, but can I just see going forward? But it's got to, the evidence base has got to be there for it, Gwen. But it is fantastic, Safer Streets. It really is. And it's something that I'd love to be able to roll out. But obviously, we'll get a limited amount of money for it. And it's got to be targeted where it is most needed. Okay, thank you very much. And Gwen, I think you've asked another question. I'm just looking in the chat bar here and just give me, here we go. My question is aimed at both police and fire as well as the Commissioner's office. The annual accounts inspection period is upon us, but I see nothing. Can you explain where we are in the process, the dates of inspections and how you promote to make sure citizens are aware? So let's have a look. So unfortunately, Simon Dennis isn't able to have stayed on the call. but they are published in the Audit Committee and Joint Audit Committee papers for the 20th of June. I hope that answers your question there, Gwen. Okay, and I'm sure we'll be putting that on my website as well. Right, I think that's the end of the meeting. Thank you very much for everyone for tuning in. Thank you to everybody on the call that has contributed to today's meeting. I really appreciate that. I wish you a good afternoon and a lovely evening, and thank you for listening. Thank you very much.